You must have seen this meme, right? You start off in Apple Notes, then try a bunch of different apps, only to return right back to where you started. It's not that simple, and we're gonna come back to this, but there is a lot of truth to it, because there's a few things where Apple Notes really shines. And the first is how easy it is to find anything in Apple Notes, because everything is searchable: the title, the content, and even what's inside attachments like PDFs and pictures. And because it's a native app, you can search directly from the Spotlight without even having the app opened. Very nice. And there's a ton of people that pay for third-party apps just so they can scan documents. But you can actually scan any document using your phone straight into Apple Notes. And because it uses iCloud, it'll be accessible across all your devices. And by the way, just these 3 features that we just went over are actually paid features in other apps. But this is just the beginning, because you might have noticed that the document that I just scanned was automatically placed in this folder. And this looks different to the other folders because this one is a smart folder. And it's set up in a way so that every time I scan something, it automatically gets placed here. And you can do the same by going to File, New Smart Folder, and choosing your filter here. And there's a ton of use cases for this, because you can combine different filters. So if I wanted to only see scanned documents in the past week, I would just press the plus icon to add the second filter, then choose date created to be last week, and then I would just name it whatever I want. And you can also convert an existing folder into a smart folder by right-clicking and selecting Convert to Smart Folder. Alright, so you know when you just want to jot down something quick because you know you'll forget? Well, there's no better app for it than this, thanks to Quick Notes. You can press the globe key plus Q and immediately start typing. Or you can set up hot corners that lets you hover to a specific corner of your screen to bring up a quick note. And to do that, just come to Settings, Desktop and Dock, and assign it to one of the corners. And every time you take a quick note, it'll be stored on this folder here. And by default, a new quick note will be merged with the last one instead of creating a brand new one. And if you're like me and don't want that, just come here to Settings and uncheck Always Resume to Last Quick Note. You can also tag any note and then access all the notes with that tag here. And if you have multiple tags across a ton of notes, you can select more than one to narrow down the exact note that you want to find. And you can even combine this with smart folders by making one that filters for 2 specific tags, as well as for notes that were made in the last 30 days. Very nice. And a few years ago, a lot of people's main reason for moving into something like Obsidian was to be able to link between different notes. But you can now do that right here in Apple Notes. Just highlight something, right-click, choose Add Link, and then the note you want to link to. And now, if you click on it, you'll be taken to that specific note. There are a few important caveats to this, which I'll get to in the next section. Alright, so before, if you wanted to have AI proofread your text or change the style, you had to copy and paste it somewhere like ChatGPT. But you can now do this right here in Apple Notes thanks to Apple Intelligence. You just highlight your text and a little icon shows up to show you all that it can do. But this still works anywhere by right-clicking your text, writing tools, and choosing one of the presets. And to take this to the next level, you can also assign different keyboard shortcuts for the functions that you use the most. You can do this by going to Keyboard Settings, Keyboard Shortcuts, App Shortcuts, and then assign them under all applications. Just make sure that you write it out just as you see them in the menu bar. So if you want to create a shortcut to rewrite, just type rewrite and assign your keyboard shortcut. There's also a huge feature coming later in the year, which is Siri 2.0, which will have full access to everything we do on the Mac. And that's going to include our notes. And if you're someone who has thousands of notes about everything in your life, Siri will have access to all of them and will be able to help you in ways we've never seen before. I'll be making a full video on it when it comes out, so make sure you're subscribed. macOS Sequoia also brought other features like collapsible headers, different colors, and even audio recording. So you can now record a clip straight into the Notes app, and you can even transcribe that audio into text. There's also math notes, so you can do all kinds of different calculations, and it will update the results dynamically. Alright, so that's the good stuff, but now let's go over the bad. So let's say you've been working on a note for days. Then something happens and you accidentally get rid of a paragraph or maybe even the whole note. note. No big deal, right? Just hit Command Z and you're done. And if you completely delete the note, also not a big deal. Just go to the recents folder and restore it there. But now, let's say you delete something and you click on another note. Well, now you have a problem because you can't press Command Z to undo it, nor will you find it in the recently deleted folder. And this is only a problem because the Notes app doesn't have version control. And there's plenty of apps like Notion that offer this even on the free plan. There is a workaround for this, but it's far from ideal, and that is using Time Machine. But the problem with that is that Apple stores your notes on a database file. So if you want to restore just that note, you have to go in there and dig through it to find it, which is not easy. Otherwise, your only other options are a full restore using Time Machine or rewrite the whole thing from scratch. I was hoping this would finally come with macOS Sequoia, but it didn't, and it's a massive problem. Because it's not just about preventing accidents. There's plenty of times where I want to retrieve something that I wrote 3 or 4 days ago, and that's doable in many apps, but not on Apple Notes. Another big con is that there's no way to natively export your notes. There is a free app that does this called Exporter, but it's far from perfect because of the next con, which is the fact that Apple Notes uses a proprietary format. So when you export using this method, it's not going to go smoothly at all. Let's use this note, which has a PDF, a link, a tag, and something colored. If I use the Exporter app to export, this is what the final version looks like. As you can see, we lost everything: the tags, the colors, and the links. It's not the app's fault. In fact, it does a great job, especially as a free app. The problem is that Apple is using a proprietary format. And on top of all of that, you're also locked into the Apple ecosystem. And these problems, the lack of good export options, the fact that it uses a proprietary format, the ecosystem lock, all of these form an even bigger problem, which is that you're not future-proofed with Apple Notes. And if you're okay with that, as well as with all the cons that we just went over, or if you just use Apple Notes to jot down a quick note here and there, then without a doubt, this is the app for you. You can't beat the convenience, and it has everything a casual user would need and more. But if you take this seriously and you spend hours upon hours a day taking notes, then there are plenty of alternatives. And if you spend that much time taking notes at your desk like I do, then you should definitely check out today's sponsor, FlexiSpot, because it's been proven that sitting for extended periods leads to several health problems. So if what you do requires you to sit at a desk for hours a day like me, then a standing desk is a must. This is the E7 Pro, and this thing is a beast. I've had standing desks before, but this is on another level. It's rock solid with 2 powerful motors that can lift up to 440 pounds without breaking a sweat. You can adjust the height manually or program different sitting and standing heights so that you can switch between them with just the push of a button. And even at the highest setting, there's little to no wobbling when I'm typing. It's super sturdy. Setup was a breeze, everything comes nicely packaged, and cable management is seamless thanks to the included magnetic sleeve that attaches to the frame and hides the cables. I went with the black frame and the maple wood top, which looks great, but everything about this is customizable, and there are even a bunch of cool accessories that you can get. The desks are fairly priced and come with a 15-year warranty as well as free returns for 30 days. If you're interested in picking up the new E7 Pro, you can use my code in the description that gets you $50 off your purchase. And a big thank you to FlexiSpot for sponsoring this video. Alright, so as for the alternatives, it really depends on what you're looking for, because it's going to be different for everyone. But for me, a good Notes app has to fix all the problems that Apple Notes has, and on top of that, it has to be local first, reasonably customizable, and have a strong community, which is really important as that ensures that the app continues to be developed and that new features keep coming out. Longtime viewers know exactly where I'm going with this, but the answer for me is Obsidian, and it's not even close. I've been using it for over 4 years now, and I actually started this YouTube channel talking about Obsidian because I was and still am so passionate about it. Obsidian is 100% free, but comes with more features than most, if not all, of the paid apps. You can link notes and see all of your links in a graph view. It has its own mind mapping tool, which is like Apple's free freeform on steroids, and it has a really strong and active community behind it that make amazing plugins that act like apps on an app store that take Obsidian to a whole new level. There's nearly 2,000 of these plugins, and they allow you to do pretty much anything you could possibly want in Obsidian. But here's the thing, you don't have to use any of this. You don't even have to use the stuff that it comes with. If there's something you don't use, you can actually disable it in settings. Obsidian gives you full control, and not just of the software itself, but of your own notes as well. And that's because it runs on Markdown, and every note is just a text file stored locally on your machine. But you can also store them in a cloud service like iCloud or Google Drive and run as many backups as you'd like. You're in full control, and your notes are truly yours. Obsidian could disappear tomorrow, and my notes would still be right here in my file system in a widely available format for me to just move somewhere else. It really doesn't get any more future-proof than this. Not too long ago, if you wanted something with this level of privacy and future-proofness, you had to miss out on all of the great features that were only offered by cloud-based apps using proprietary formats. But we can now have the best of both worlds. So going back to the meme, I think it's all about the right tool for the right job. And if you're someone just taking casual notes here and there, reminders, maybe scanning a PDF or two, then Apple Notes is a no-brainer. And that's why I think this meme got so popular, because honestly, the vast majority of people really do fall in that category. But a lot of us don't. If you make heavy use of databases and you collaborate with a team, then Apple Notes is just not gonna cut it, and you probably want something like Notion. If you value privacy and future-proofness, or maybe you're a writer or researcher, then you definitely want something like Obsidian. Everyone always compares Notion to Obsidian, but they're really meant for different things. And that's why I use Notion for work and Obsidian for my own personal thoughts. And I went over that in this video right here. So I'll see you there.